It's curious how the quirkiest customs seem commonplace when you've been immersed in them since birth. One of my acquaintances can't fathom Thanksgiving sans a ceremonious turkey spanking, while another boasted of tea parties for every A earned in high school. Then there's the tale of a family who lounged on natural at home. The poor lad couldn't fathom why giggles ensued when he disrobed at a friend's house. It hadn't occurred to him that their way of life might differ, but why should it? None of these customs seemed more arbitrary than a birthday cake or a Yuletide tree. I'm Elizabeth, and my family has its own ritual. Each night post-dinner, Dad would ferry a platter of leftovers to the basement, only to find it empty come morning. He dubbed it the house spirit's share, eliciting a smirk from Mom. Dad, a towering figure at 6'4" and 250 elves, might have simply craved a midnight nibble. It never gave me pause until a history lesson on the Black Death. The topic veered to rats infesting granaries and spreading disease, some believed to be appeasing vengeful spirits by leaving food out. I mentioned our nightly offering, provoking mortified gasps from my peers. Mr. Hallward, our teacher, steered clear of my desk for the rest of class, as though I bore the plague. That night, I endured a nightmare of rats scouring our home for leftovers. Jolting awake, I lay in bed, senses alert amid the oppressive dark. Pitter-patter echoed, distinct in the stillness. Scratch, 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 like nails on coarse wood. I huddled under blankets, futilely seeking refuge. Perhaps it had been a nightly symphony, indistinguishable from the house's nocturnal cacophony. But now, I couldn't hear anything else. I mulled summoning Mom, but at 15, I was striving to prove my maturity for a car. Sobbing over a nightmare would jeopardize that. Clad in underwear, I navigated the hallway with my phone's flashlight, the scratching growing louder near the basement door. If it was a rat, it must be colossal. A chair scraped across the concrete, halting me. Part of me yearned to switch on the light, but prudence urged otherwise. I extinguished my flashlight and cracked open the door. Something growled, and I hastily shut the door, pressing my back against it, trying to steady my breath. My panting had been frantic, almost deafening. I exhaled sharply, then drew in a slow, quiet breath through my nose. Scratch, scratch, scratch echoed from the other side of the door. I turned, observing the doorknob slowly turning. It couldn't be a mere rat. My curiosity strangely eclipsed my fear. I placed my hand on the knob, recalling Dad's words about the house spirit. We had tended to it, so why pose a threat to me? As the door creaked open, I confronted a pallid girl, younger than me, her hollow eyes hidden beneath disheveled bangs. Her thin frame was barely veiled by a lace nightgown. It was not what I anticipated. I slammed the door shut and bolted, racing up the stairs, securing my room, and diving into bed. I held my breath, feeling as though I might burst, until the soft patter of feet ascending the stairs, nearing my room. The doorknob rattled. Unable to contain myself any longer, I let out a loud scream, the rush of breath escaping me. The rattling ceased, and lights flickered on throughout the house. In moments, there was a resounding knock on my door. "Honey, everything all right in there?" It was Dad's voice. I hurried to unlock my room, finding him at the threshold, looking disoriented and weary, as if ready to collapse back into bed. With the lights on and him present, my fear seemed foolish. Bringing up the girl would only compound my embarrassment. "Apologies," I began. I thought I heard something downstairs. "Darn, who needs an alarm when you can belt out a scream like that?" He chuckled. "It was likely just a nightmare. I'm sorry for waking you." Glancing around to ensure privacy, Dad leaned in and whispered, "Was it from the basement?" I nodded. Relief washed over his face, mirrored by my own, until he added, "That's just the household spirit, dear. Pay it no mind, and keep it between us, all right? It won't harm you." I nodded, uncertain of what else to do. He tousled my hair before shuffling back to his room. After ensuring the stairs were empty, I retreated to the safety of my room, where sleep eluded me until dawn broke anew. The following day, I slept in, but as night fell, my curiosity demanded answers. Dad's vague explanations didn't suffice, yet he evaded further discussion. So, with both parents asleep, I descended to the basement, determined to confront whatever lurked there. The basement door stood open upon my arrival. Though I illuminated the kitchen connecting to it, I dared not descend the stairs. 3 slices of leftover pizza sat untouched, and I poured myself a drink, bracing for her return. If she truly was a guardian of the house, I wished to meet her. If not, surely her intentions would become evident. My mistake was fixating on the door. She possessed corporeality. She ate, she manipulated doorknobs. Thus, she must traverse doors. However, my resolve crumbled upon hearing the familiar scratching sound above. I watched in dread as a ventilation grate shifted, and she descended like a specter, her face obscured by tangled hair, a feral snarl emanating from her throat. She was as enigmatic to me as the realm beyond mortality. Her mannerisms were erratic, her gaze restless like that of a caged creature. Yet, amidst our stark differences, a shared fondness for pizza served as an unlikely connection. When offered, she accepted with a smile, swiftly devouring all 3 slices in a manner both savage and ravenous. Amidst her hurried consumption, fragments of speech emerged. "Kevin won't let me leave. It's all right. I don't wish to depart. He cares for me. He professed love for me. Vowed to wed me upon my 13th year. Remain here in the kitchen," I instructed, masking my unease. I longed for Dad's reassuring presence, but if her claims held any truth, returning with Mom 5 minutes later required finesse, ensuring Dad remained undisturbed. At the mention of the spirit, Mom sprang from bed. Though she professed disbelief, her eyes betrayed a fear that spoke volumes. Upon our return to the kitchen, the pallid girl continued to imbibe soda with an almost mechanical fervor. "Who are you? What brings you into our home?" Mom demanded, her protective instincts ignited. I urged restraint, yet Mom persisted. "It's all right, Mom. She means no harm. She seeks our aid." I interjected, grappling with regret for disclosing the girl's revelations. "I'm Sandy," the pale girl declared. "And who might you be?" "I am Kevin's spouse, that's who. The one you fabricate falsehoods about." Mom advanced indignantly, and I attempted to intervene, but her anger was uncontainable. "You'd best elucidate how you trespassed, or I shall summon the authorities." "I did not intrude," Sandy retorted, rising defiantly. "Kevin brought me here. He adores me." Perhaps it was disbelief or a fear of the girl's truth that ignited Mom's fury. I should have exerted greater effort to dissuade her, yet I was unprepared for Mom's sudden outburst, culminating in a slap across Sandy's visage. Sandy's head jerked sharply from the blow, then slowly rotated back. It was then I realized that Mom failed to perceive the subtle contortions in Sandy's skeletal structure as her neck twisted. "You intrude upon our sanctuary, pilfer sustenance meant for my kin, and concoct these vile fabrications about my spouse." Mom, typically the epitome of gentleness, possessed a temper that sometimes required hours to abate. "Mom, please cease. I care not if you lack alternatives. In my domain, one must seek permission before taking." "Mother, just observe. Can you not discern her abnormality? And to whom else have you disseminated these depraved falsehoods? For heaven's sake, I demand your immediate departure from our abode." "What's the commotion down here?" Dad boomed into the room, halting in his tracks as he surveyed the scene. "Goodness gracious, Kathy, have you lost your senses?" "My senses?" Mom exclaimed, wheeling to face Dad. "Do not dare defend that aberration in our domicile. I hear only one of you shouting, and do not you dare denigrate Sandy as an aberration." Their agitation was unprecedented. I alone seemed to catch Sandy's murmurs. "Is it factual?" Her voice trembled, her form seeming to glitch and distort like a corrupted image. "He wedded her. He deceived me." She appeared utterly crestfallen. I was at a loss for words. Disclose the truth, Sandy implored. Does Kevin still cherish me? How could I possibly know? I glanced helplessly between my parents as they exchanged heated words, feeling overwhelmed and apprehensive. The notion of my father with this young girl nearly turned my stomach. Yet, one thing was clear. She did not belong here. I shook my head. No, he does not, I asserted. His heart belongs to my mother. It's best if you depart. Thank you for enlightening me, Sandy replied. Now, I shall seek retribution. Please, do not observe. I didn't want to, but I couldn't help it. Mom didn't see it coming, though. The air was distorted with a pale blur, and before I could even open my mouth, I saw thin white fingers tearing out my mother's throat. Most of her neck was still intact, but the trachea was pulled straight out through the skin. I don't think she suffered much on account of how quick it was, but that was a very small comfort. Dad's fortune took a darker turn. Despite his imposing stature, he seemed paralyzed, offering no resistance as the white fingers punctured his chest, seizing his heart in a gruesome display. For a chilling moment, his heart hung outside his body, tethered by a web of veins and arteries, his strained expression revealing the agony. "I never forgot you," were his parting words. Sandy contorted once more, vanishing in a blur, her wails echoing through the house like a lament. I hurried to Dad's side, but the damage was irreversible. Later that night, as the police combed through the premises, the basement yielded no trace of anyone. Though they heard my account, I doubted they took it seriously, given my inconsolable state. Yet, I knew what I had witnessed, and what I later discovered. During the investigation, a trove of photographs emerged from a shoebox in the basement. In these images, Sandy radiated with youthful joy, standing beside a boy of her age. A boy unmistakably my father. The authorities overlooked them, dismissing any connection, but my own inquiries revealed a poignant truth. Dad had grown up next door to a girl named Sandy Withers. Once inseparable companions, their bond transcended mere friendship. But tragedy struck when Sandy succumbed to a diabetic coma at the tender age of 12. On the back of one photo, inscribed in Dad's sturdy hand, were the words, "I'll never forget you." The circumstances that bound Sandy to our realm remain a mystery, yet it's evident that Dad could never release her memory. 3 years have passed, and despite urging from others to sell a house and relocate, I remain here. Perhaps I, too, struggle to let go, as I faithfully maintain our age-old tradition. The only difference is that I now leave out 3 plates of food every night and collect 3 clean dishes every morning.